anxiety that can come with change. It's not just people with Asperger's syndrome who find change very difficult to deal with, but I'm sure there's a lot of people not on the autistic spectrum first to admit it as well, that they either don't like change or perhaps find it difficult. But it helps to be with it rather than to resist it, just by facing and coping with it. Something I have found, just from previous experience before I took to mindfulness practice, a lot of changes that I had to go through meant huge periods of stress caused by resistance to change, and a lot of difficulty in being able to let go of change or routine. And just by being present with each moment helps to cope with it, and also when it happens to adapt to it very effectively. Now, being present with Asperger's syndrome rather than being constrained by it, as I said earlier when describing what mindfulness isn't, it isn't a cure. What it can enable you to be as a person with Asperger's syndrome is to be a person with Asperger's syndrome here and now, in the present, to be able to apply strengths and qualities associated with Asperger's syndrome, giving you the freedom to do that, that's not constrained by issues such as stress, anxiety and tension. This helps for greater recognition of those strengths and qualities. And it helps also to apply those strengths and qualities to normal life, to the world around you, and also to people around you and the social environment around you generally. And increased interaction with the social environment, something that I found from it, including from doing something similar to what I'm doing right now, really does help you to grow as a person and to increase your self-esteem. Ultimately, what continued mindfulness practices help me to find in what I do, as well as the work I do at Autism Works, the autism training that I do, and also certain challenges that I take on, including last year's Great North Run, is to find flow in what you do. And something this ultimately helps me with is something I've seen a lot of people at the hotel doing this morning, which is physical exercise. Well, sometimes when you start a physical exercise in the gym, or you start a run, sometimes anxiety can creep into your mind when you see the distance you've got in front of you that you're going to run, and you start to wonder if you can't complete it, or if you're going to climb a hill or a mountain, you see the ascent in front of you, and you think to yourself, oh my God, I can't climb all that high up. But that's where the doubt comes from. So rather than have the doubt controlling you, it helps to gain control over the doubt, to be with each moment of a run or with a climb, so that you find flow in that, and ultimately you're doing the run, the climb, or a physical exercise, whether it's lifting weights or running on a treadmill using an exercise bike. You're going for a particular target to do the activity rather than do the activity to reach a particular target. That's something that's helpful with when having a goal to aim at. It does help to have goals that you've got something to work for, to work towards, if you like, but it helps to not to be constrained by that goal, but be present in towards getting there, and helps with your motivation. In this image, which is taken in Iceland's Landmangaluga region, something that you can easily see is that there's flow there, in that it's flowing water, but as it's very pure water, you can also actually see what is flowing in the water. If you look very carefully where you're pointing the laser, you can see the very light blue part, which is the oxygen flowing in the water. So as well as seeing the water flowing, you can see what is actually flowing within the water. So it can be good while you have routine, or a comfort zone. It can be comforting while you have routine, but it's an even bigger relief, I think, knowing that it's subject to change, and that ultimately it's not fixed nor permanent, and neither's the way that you're affected by Asperger's syndrome. Though it's present throughout life, the effects aren't necessarily always going to be quite the same. In this afternoon's exercise, I've got some more hands-on aspects of it. So we've got another 15 minutes or so before we're due to take a break for teas and coffees, and then hopefully to return from a much more refreshed perspective. But in the 10-15 minutes or so before that, I'm open to any comments or questions anybody might have. Thank you.
Chris, can I just ask?
Yeah.
We have no experience of mindfulness, but we support people with Asperger's. What practical tips would you suggest for actually starting to introduce this technique to supporting our people to control their anxiety?
Well, it helps first of all for people to be there by choice. This was something that was talked about quite a lot at the Mindfulness in Schools programme, the conference I spoke at there. For mindfulness practice to work, or anything related to mindfulness practice for that matter, it has to be sought by choice, because I have known it to happen when it's introduced and people on the autistic spectrum are almost trying too hard to become calm, as it has the reverse effect and leads to more anxiety. So it must be choice, and it helps to make it accessible as a choice, just by showing the very simple aspects of it, and also ultimately so that nobody feels as though it's being enforced on them, that the practice is purely flexible and can be adapted to individual needs. So it's not as if they're attending a boot camp almost. So making it an accessible choice, and also just generally keeping the practices as simple as possible, and also something that can also help from the autism perspective is, where possible, in some cases build it around a special interest that perhaps has a very distant link to mindfulness.
Could you tell us a little bit about how life was for you before you came to mind using this mindfulness technique, and what the difference it has made for you?
Well, keeping it nice and simple, so the biggest difference that I've noticed is that I feel as though my mental health is so much more stable than it maybe is used to be. So before I sought the practice, I did notice very much in the years after I got my diagnosis, my mental health was very up and down. I could be feeling very confident during a certain period, but it wouldn't necessarily last, and I would every so often not being fully aware of it, find myself relaxing into low periods of low self-esteem, which got to a stage where they became very, very difficult for me to move on from or to come out of. Because when you find yourself constrained by depression or low self-esteem, it almost becomes a controlling factor, very, very, very difficult